What is going on, everybody? Back again today to talk about, well, you can tell what we're going to talk about based on the title. It is Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, Dark Crisis, whatever you want to call it. This is my review. I debated whether or not I was going to do a full-on review of this. I decided I would because my video that I put up called "How to Make Marvel and DC Comics Last Forever," something like that, uh, wasn't enough. I wanted to talk about this more, and it was reading this that spawned that line of thinking that led to that other video. So we're going to talk more about this, or I'm going to talk more about this. So I did not enjoy Dark Crisis. I didn't, and here's why. It's just DC has they're just I don't even know how to describe it. They're just going and going and going, and they've it's like they've got nothing left in the tank, so they're just trying to just like they're trying anything. They're just throwing shit at the wall and seeing if it sticks. It's going nowhere. This entire story was pointless, and people are gonna argue with me and disagree because they're gonna be like, "What are you talking about? The ending was great and it shook up the whole DC." No, it didn't. No, it didn't. Not in a good way anyway. Like so, I disliked this crossover for two reasons. The first was lack of a real villain. Like there's no real villain. The villain is some people will say that the villain is Pariah. Some people will say the villain is Deathstroke. Some people will say the villain is the Great Darkness. Um, in both cases with Pariah and Deathstroke, the only reason they are the villain of this is because they are possessed or overcome by the Great Darkness. Well, what the fuck is the Great Darkness? Let's start there. What is the Great Darkness? It's fucking nothing. It's nothing, and they basically even say that in here. They're like, it's nothing. It's DC has gotten so they're out of ideas. They're out of ideas, and all they can do is just become more and more meta and just kind of like write comic book stories about comic book stories. Like it's it's almost impressive, like just how too far they've gone with this. It's just bad. It's just there's no other way around it. It's bad. Um, the Great Darkness is not a villain. The Great Darkness is a concept. Like you can't punch the Great Darkness in the face. You can't snap the Great Darkness's neck. It's a concept. The Great Darkness it's everything depressing and hopeless and despairing. It's all the nasty. It's this cosmic comic book force of energy that just turns you into this very pessimistic, dark person, but also gives you these just like arbitrary powers bullshitted out of a butthole. Like the Great Darkness is the enemy, and the Great Darkness is it's not anything. It's nothing. It's intangible. It's nothing. This is just them being more meta. It's like, what's the real enemy here? Well, the real enemy isn't a supervillain. The real enemy is hopelessness and despair and depression. Fuck off. Fuck off with that. Like, how about that? You know, not everything needs to be a fucking metaphor. Like, holy shit. It's just bad at this point. Um, And then the other thing I really didn't like about it, I don't really know if this is going to be a long review because I'm doing this basically just to say what they did wrong. Another thing that I didn't like about it was, and this is kind of it involves Dark Crisis, but it also involves the Justice League run prior to Dark Crisis, where the entire Justice League died. Yeah, okay. Yeah, like this is like when Henry Cavill died in Batman v Superman and they were legitimately trying to like be like, "Oh, he's dead. He's dead. He's not on the Justice League poster for the Justice League movie because he's dead." And everyone in the fucking world is just like, "Why are you lying? This is such a bullshit, pointless lie. This isn't even a twist. It's just a lie. It's what are you doing? It's just a lie. You killed the entire Justice League. You killed Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Aquaman, Green Arrow, Martian Manhunter. You killed the entire A-list roster and some of the B-list. Bullshit. 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 You just wanted them to be temporarily out of commission so that you could have an excuse to bring characters like, what the fuck's her name? Yara Flor, this new Wonder Woman bitch, and Jonathan Kent Superman and Nightwing. You just wanted an excuse to get the main A-list characters of DC out of the way for a little while so that you could put these legacy characters up front. And then you were like, okay, well, it can't stay that way because no one wants these long enduring characters like Superman and Batman, these fucking icons. No one wants them permanently gone. And we know that. So they have to come back. But basically, it's like, here, let me put it to you this way. So here's Superman, Clark Kent Superman, Bruce Wayne Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Aquaman, the typical A-list DC characters. All right? And then here's these fucking legacy characters. All right? What they wanted to do was they were like, let's just kind of like take these A-list characters, let's just slip them out of the picture for a little while. All right? And then since they're gone, now we can like elevate those legacy characters, and then just to kind of pacify people so they don't get too pissed off, we'll bring back those A-list characters, but we'll kind of just slip them in underneath the legacy characters so that the legacy characters can still stay like on top and at the forefront. No. Nightwing is a supporting character, and he always will be, because the fucking main event is Batman. Jonathan Kent, Superman, is a supporting character, and he always will be, because the main event is Clark Kent, Superman, and he always will be. Always. Doesn't matter what you want, think, or feel. That's how it's always going to be. It's been that way for over 80 years. 8-0. Stop trying this idea of like, oh, we're going to usher in some like new replacements for Superman and Batman. No, you're not. No, you're not. They've been around for 80 years. They're fucking cultural icons. They're not going anywhere. Stop with this bullshit. This is you like, yeah, but this is, you know what this is? This is DC going, yeah, but we just don't know what to do with these characters anymore. Like, we don't know what to do with Clark Kent Superman. We don't know what to do with Bruce Wayne Batman anymore. We're like, it's been 80 years of them. We don't know what to do with them anymore. Well, this is why I wanted to talk more about this, because this relates back to that other video I made called How to Make Marvel and DC Last Forever. The way you make the way you keep it going is you restart the fucking story. You restart it. Every 25 years, you restart the story. And you make it ever so slightly different, mostly the same. Mostly you just retell the exact same fucking story every 25 years. You just make slight differences because, you know, like, for example, and I said this in the other video, Crisis on Infinite Earths in 1985, 1986, they did this. They restarted the whole fucking story, the whole fucking thing. And they made adjustments because the first time they told this story, Batman started being Batman in 1939. And now he was starting his career as Batman in 1986. Some shit has changed in that time period. And the comic books and the stories need to reflect those changes. But other than that, you just retell the same fucking story. Bruce Wayne is going to become Batman. He's going to fight the Joker. He's going to fight Penguin. He's going to fight Two-Face. He's going to fight the Riddler. He's going to have Dick Grayson as Robin. Dick Grayson's going to become Nightwing. He's going to have Jason Todd. Jason Todd's going to get killed. All of this shit is gonna happen again and again and again and again and again every 25 years. We're gonna start it over and retell the fucking story with just slight subtle differences to reflect the new time period, the new 25-year later time period that this story is now taking place in, as opposed to the previous version 25 years ago. That's how you do this. That's how it's done. But DC, I get it. To the artsy fartsy creative people out there, that doesn't sound like fun. Just retelling the same fucking story every 25 years. Too bad. Too bad. That's what people want. That's what people want. The thing you have to understand is when these characters were created, their initial creators, like Bob Kane, Bill Finger, Jim Schuster, the people who created these fucking icons, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, Jack Kirby, all these people, they They hit the nail on the head. They fucking they captured lightning in a bottle, and you all will never ever be able to recreate that. The best you just have to run with that lightning in the bottle. You're never going to get it again. You're never ever ever going to come up with a better way to do Superman. You're never going to come up with a better way to do Batman. Batman is Batman, Superman is Superman. And yes, I get it. At a certain point, it feels like we've done everything with this character. We don't know what else to do anymore. Time to start it over. Time to do a crisis, wipe the slate clean, and start the story the fuck over for a new generation. Retell the story for another 25 years. It's basically the exact same story with just minor differences to reflect the new time period it takes place in. And then at the end of that 25, you restart it again. That's what you do. But they're not doing it here. They're trying this legacy bullshit with these legacy characters, and it's not going to work. It's not. It's not going to work. Because at the end of the day, here's why. When it comes to new fans, when it comes to new young people becoming attached to these franchises, young people are not getting attached to them through comics anymore. Like, most kids growing up these days, their introduction to the character of Superman or Batman or Flash or Spider-Man or any of them, it's not through a comic book. It's through an animated cartoon or a movie or maybe a video game. And guess what? In those things, it's always going to be it's always going to be Clark Kent Superman. It's always going to be Bruce Wayne Batman. Because people know that's the thing. That's what sells. That's Batman, that's Superman, that's the way it is. So when young children, new generations are introduced to this stuff, they're not going to get into this idea you have that, like, oh, the last generation, they had Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne, Superman, Batman. This next generation will have Dick Grayson, Nightwing, and Jonathan Kent, Superman. No. Excuse me. No, that's not how it's going to go. Every single new generation of human beings of this earth will be introduced to Clark Kent Superman, Bruce Wayne Batman, Peter Parker Spider-Man, the same shit. And they will be introduced to them through cartoons and movies. That's just the way it is now. Because like animation and live action media outranks print media. It's the way it is. So you have these kids who grow up during their early childhood introduced to the normal versions of these characters, and then you think they're just gonna like hit age 16, walk into a comic book store, and be like, they finally get to the age where they're making their own money and they can drive and they have a little bit of independence, and you think that they're just going to go to the comic book store with the intention to get into comics, and they're going to go, I want to get into DC. I used to watch that shit on like cartoons and stuff like that when I was a kid. I want to read the comics. And then they're going to be handed a comic. They're going to go, Jonathan Kent Superman, and he's making out with dudes. That's not what I know of Superman. Get that the fuck out of there. No, and it's not because he's making out with dudes. It's because it's not what they know. It's not. It'd be the same thing. Oh, I want to read the new Batman book. Well, it's not really Batman anymore. It's Dick Grayson Nightwing. Well, that's not what I grew up with. Get that the fuck out of here. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. So this legacy bullshit is a stupid. I remember the last time that they tried to do this. It was like, what was it? Wally West was the Flash, and Wally West was pretty well received as the Flash. Because like Barry Allen died epically in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and Wally West became the new Flash, and he was the Flash through the 90s and the 2000s, or no, through the rest of the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. But I remember it was like 2010, and Bruce Wayne was gone. He was lost in time, and Dick Grayson was Batman, and Wally West was Flash. But then what happened? Barry Allen came back, and Bruce Wayne came back, and then they did the whole fucking New 52 thing where they tried to start the universe over. It was a good idea. It was a flawed idea. I've talked about it before. But they were on the right track with the idea of just starting the shit over. which is what they should do because like they're out of ideas. That's just what it is. They're out of ideas. This is not good. It's not good. And it ends with Batman even says he's like Bruce Wayne Batman. He even says he's like the Justice League is disbanded for now. And it's like, "Oh, gee, I wonder why that is." We know why it is. It's because you want to push Nightwing and John Kent and Yara Flor and nobody gives a fuck about them. Nobody, you want to push Jace Fox Batman and just nobody gives a fuck. Nobody gives a flying fuck about them. I collect DC Multiverse, McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. You want to know what one of the number one peg hanging figures on the store? I go into the store and there's just countless of these sitting on the pegs. You don't want to know who it is? It's John Kent Superman. No one buys his figure. Do you know why? Because no one gives a fuck about him. No one cares. People liked him when he was a kid and he was like 10 years old and him and Damian were running around having Super Sons adventures. That shit was fun and entertaining. But no one cares about this. No one gives a shit. No one cares. You know, another peg warmer that I saw up there was the Jace Fox Batman. No one cares. You know which one out of all the future state figures that they did, you know which one sold? The Dark Detective Bruce Wayne Batman. That's a nice figure because it's Bruce Wayne. So Batman stays Bruce Wayne, typical traditional Bruce Wayne Batman. You keep typical traditional Clark Kent Superman, typical traditional Diana Prince Wonder Woman. You keep things the typical traditional way, and if you run out of ideas for those, you start the story over. But this is bullshit. This is just you guys out of ideas, and when you're out of ideas, you should just start the story over. So now I'm just repeating myself. I'm like a broken record. So that's my take on Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. If you liked it, you liked it. Whatever. But I didn't care for it. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. I guess leave some comments below, get a discussion started. If you liked this video, please hit the like button. It really helps out my channel. If you want to help out my channel even further, check out some of my other videos and maybe subscribe. But other than that, I'll talk to you guys later.